Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to everyone. Greetings to you all, wherever you may be. Welcome, each and every one of you, here on your platform, the platform for awakening consciences. This is the top story in world news. A preliminary agreement has been reached in Istanbul between Ukraine and Russia. The agreement was reached today, May 16th, 2025. But what kind of agreement is it? For now, it does not concern a peace agreement, but it is a very significant step on the path toward peace. And as we speak in London and Paris, are very upset because they did not want, even in the slightest, for any agreement to be reached. Yet it is only a preliminary agreement. And what will emerge later on is going to be something truly fascinating. I told you that in global geopolitics, everything is constantly shifting. At any moment, things are changing. At any moment. In this video conference, that's what we're going to talk about. But first, I want to thank you for sharing the video conference. Share it as much as possible in all the groups, as long as you can. And above all, make sure to give it lots of likes. All right, let's get started. First, it's important to point out that contrary to the information we received and shared this morning, regarding the start time of the negotiations, a small correction needs to be made. The talks actually began at 10:30 a.m. GMT, not 9:30. The Turkish foreign minister gave an opening speech. After his opening speech, the meeting was held behind closed doors. There were no journalists present. Yes, there were only a few select media outlets from both sides. Just a handful from each delegation. But otherwise, the rest of the journalists were outside. That's why, when they came out, it turned into a festival of questions and answers. Ask questions so they can get answers. Journalists, of course. And so, the meeting lasted, about 2 hours. 2 hours in total. This was the very first meeting, the very first stage of the negotiation. Shortly after, it was the head of the Russian delegation who made a statement. In this statement, he talked about many things, but for now, what interests us are the key points of the meeting. But I ask you to share this video conference. It needs to be shared. Share it as much as possible. Share it, give more visibility to the video conference. And your various interactions, when you leave comments, likes, it gives a lot of weight and value to the video. It allows the algorithm to understand that this is an important video. And so it gives value to what we are doing here. That's why I'm asking you to share as much as possible. Now, in the statement from the head of the Russian delegation, the head of the Russian delegation expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the discussions. The head of the Russian delegation, Vladimir Medensky, stated that they are satisfied with the initial results of the discussions on this first day. It should be noted that these negotiations are likely to last and will last several days as long as there is no actual agreement. But we must congratulate the world. We must congratulate Turkey for the fact that the first negotiations have begun. So, what did they discuss? And what was the agreement reached on? According to the Russian delegation, an agreement was reached for an exchange of 1,000 prisoners for 1,000. 1,000 for 1,000. That means Russia will hand over 1,000 prisoners of war. In other words, the Ukrainian soldiers who were captured by Russia. So Russia will hand over 1,000 prisoners. Ukraine will also hand over 1,000 prisoners. This already clearly shows that even though we know and have always said that Russia was powerful on the ground, it perfectly demonstrates that there are collateral damages. Russia is also suffering heavy losses in this conflict. since it was unimaginable that so many Russian soldiers would be captured by Ukraine. There you have it. But for now, that's the first part of the agreement. They will proceed with the exchange of 1,000 soldiers for 1,000. That has already been agreed upon. And Moscow has declared itself ready to continue the dialogue. This is what Zelensky emphasized. Ukraine has also stated that it is ready, on its part, to continue the dialogue. So things are now turning out differently, to the disadvantage of London and Paris, who, as we speak, are seeing red because their plan is failing. They want the continuation of both peace and war. But we are waiting to see what happens this evening, since they held a closed-door meeting and no one was on the phone. And after this meeting, President Zelensky will call his people. He will give instructions. Putin has already given his instructions from the start. The mission is clear. But with Zelensky, the concern is that he might call his delegation and fill their heads with other directives, since London and Paris will call Zelensky to put pressure on him. You're sitting there and they're going to tell him, you're sitting here. If an agreement is reached, your power is over, so on and so forth. That's the only concern that many observers have. It's not over. The second agreement in principle. The Russian delegation, the Russian and Ukrainian delegations have reached an agreement in principle on a new meeting. Here is the fundamental agreement that was reached. They agreed to organize a new meeting. So they will meet again. I believe it will probably be tomorrow. There you have it. I believe it will probably be tomorrow, since for now both delegations are still in Istanbul. So, after the negotiations, Zelensky, Macron, Merz, Starmer, and Tusk all spoke together with Donald Trump. They spoke with Donald Trump. Their mafia team, you know? We don't know what they wanted to put into Donald Trump's head. We just don't know. Trump stated, after the negotiations, he said today that he might call Putin to discuss a resolution to the situation in Ukraine. So, things are moving forward. He wants to call Putin to talk with him. The Kremlin agrees with the idea that contacts between Putin, Théa, and Trump are extremely important for reaching a resolution. This is what the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, noted. So, ladies and gentlemen, for now, this is what we can say regarding the situation. With the negotiations on the Istanbul side, or at least, these are the first pieces of information we have. So, we will continue to monitor if there are any other statements being made, since this is a very crucial moment. We will come back to this to elaborate, to analyze. So thank you to all of you. I'll be back with more news shortly. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.